Hi, I'm Kelly Vaughn, and this is Inside Indy. And the election is what, maybe less than 60 days away? I'm not sure, but it's fast approaching. And so we want to talk about your right to vote. And here to tell us about our rights is Katie Blair, and she is Director of Advocacy and Public Policy for the American Civil Liberties Union here in Indiana. Welcome, Katie, to Inside Indy.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk today.
Man, I bet you have been busy leading up to the election. So what's a typical day like for you at a time like this?
Oh, wow. So we have been getting the word out about people's voting rights, people who have been involved in the criminal legal system, people who are transgender Hoosiers, recently naturalized citizens, college students, people with disabilities. We've been getting just the word out about their voting rights. We found that there are a lot of misconceptions here in Indiana on who can vote. And so we're just trying to educate all Hoosiers so that they can fully participate in democracy this election and for elections to come.
Yeah. So now today we're going to focus in on those who have been previously incarcerated. And so, and you mentioned earlier the word misconception. So what are some of the misconceptions about those who have spent time behind bars?
Yeah, so the laws around whether or not someone who is incarcerated or has been incarcerated vary from state to state. And in Indiana, we're actually one of 16 states where a person's voting rights are completely restored upon reentry. And so that means here, even if you're on parole or probation, on work release, electronic monitoring, and even if you're in jail awaiting trial, you can vote here in Indiana.
Okay, but in what situation can you not, or you're not allowed to vote?
If you've been sentenced and are fulfilling your term in jail or prison.
Okay, so when you're actually serving time, those who are actually incarcerated serving time cannot vote. Okay. So, so I would take it then a lot of people miss the opportunity to vote because they have been incarcerated and they think, hey, I can't vote.
Absolutely. At the ACLU, we get calls often on election day or after the voting registration deadline has occurred from people who have been involved in the criminal legal system who thought they didn't have the right to vote. And so then they've missed that chance to cast their ballot. And so we've been facing that, time after time, year after year. And we decided it's really time to do something about it. And that's why we rolled out the Yes, You Can Vote campaign to make sure that every Hoosier knows that their rights to vote.
Okay. So why do you think that is the case, though? Just why the lack of education?
Well, so because the laws vary state by state, there's a lot of, some people in some states, people really can't vote. And so that's one thing. I know that there is a lot of rhetoric that's floating around right now talking about voter fraud and things like that. And so people are really afraid to vote whenever they might not be able to. I know that in the last election in 2018, some folks in different states thought they had the right to vote. People who've been incarcerated, primarily there was a woman in Texas, showed up thinking that she had the right to vote. And in fact, in that state, she didn't. And so then she risked going back into the criminal legal system. But people do not have to face those barriers here. We do not have laws like that on the books. So we want to make sure people know that they can vote here in Indiana.
Okay, so part of the confusion is that from state to state it varies. So if you have a cousin in Alabama, they might be saying one thing and you're on the phone talking to them and you're going, oh, it must be the way it is, like it's a federal law and it's by state.
Exactly. And I've had so many conversations with people who are doing entire get out the vote campaigns and they didn't know about this law, people who are already elected officials who didn't know about this law, people who work with the affected communities and they didn't know about the law. And so when people don't know about their rights, they give them up. And so now that we know and we're working with people who work directly with folks in the reentry world, we're hoping to dispel these myths and get the word out.
Okay, so let's go over what the law says, and let's take it a little more slowly because sometimes people are just tuning in. They're like, "What are they talking about? What is the law? What did I miss out on?" So we want to make sure they know. So when it comes to those who have previously been incarcerated, who can vote?
Or as long as they are, on parole, probation, they can vote if they're in work release, electronic monitoring, even if they're in jail awaiting trial, they have the right to vote. People are all welcome. If they have any questions about that or want to check the receipts, they can go to our website at aclu-in.org. And there we have all of that information, including links to that particular statute, as well as information, on important dates for people to vote, information on registration, things like that. So it can be a really good one-stop shop for people trying to figure out their rights.
Now, if you are, say, in jail awaiting trial, but how do you vote? I mean, obviously, you can't just walk over to the voting site and vote.
Yeah.
So how does that happen?
You can vote absentee.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now how does that work again? Even within jail, do they go to?
Yeah. Well, it's a complicated process, and there are different organizations that work directly with people that are in jails awaiting trial to help them get connected with the resources they need to vote. If they have access to the internet, they can request those ballots or an absentee request form on the Secretary of State's website. There's also a phone number that they can use if they have that access as well. They can also have a family member mail in an absentee ballot request. There's a lot of different ways that people could do this.
Okay, so just knowing what those options are, because I'm thinking if I was sitting in jail, I'd be, you can't go anywhere. You have so many limitations. So how do you get access to that? And I didn't know if the jail, the county jail would help you if you went to the officer there and said, "Hey, can you help me out?" So I wasn't sure how they get that started. And oftentimes we do have people in jail, or even, and obviously inmates would not qualify, but they do watch our show, believe it or not. So I certainly want them to know what their options are. So what should people do to make sure their votes get counted in November overall, not just for those who have been incarcerated?
Well, right now, you can request an absentee ballot if you have one of the 11 reasons that someone can vote absentee. And those reasons are also listed on the Secretary of State's website. Unfortunately, there isn't any guidance on if someone can use COVID as a reason for voting absentee, fear of getting COVID. Indiana election commission officials have declined to bring that up or to clarify that. But you can get that absentee application if you do fall into one of those 11 categories and try to get that ballot. You can also, starting in October, you'll be able to vote early at some of our satellite voting locations. And that's a great way for someone, if they are afraid of COVID, going at a time where they can have a little bit more of a plan. And if you plan on voting on election day, you make your plan right away. We don't know what lines are going to look like, things like that. So make sure you have a plan and make sure you can cast that ballot.
All right. Now, how do racial disparities in the criminal legal system interact with voting rights for people who have been incarcerated?
Well, we know that there's a disproportionate amount of people of color have been involved in the criminal legal system here in Indiana and around the country. And so when there's those kinds of myths going around that people can't vote if they've been incarcerated, then that will primarily play out in communities of colors that are affected by the criminal legal system.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, makes perfect sense. So, well, just want to recap then again for those who are just tuning in, and we're talking about making those who have been previously incarcerated aware that they can vote. And a lot of people think because they've been in jail, they just can't. And that's not the case. And Katie, if you could go over again those who might have that thought in their heads, and we want to clarify that for them. And then again, go over those for those who cannot vote.
Yeah. So if you are on parole, probation, if you're on work release, involved in any community corrections program, if you have electronic monitoring, even if you're in jail awaiting trial, you have the right to vote. If you are in jail or prison serving your sentence, if you've been convicted, then you do not have the right to vote during that time. But as soon as you're you reenter, you have the right to vote here in Indiana.
Okay, it sounds very good. Anything you want to add before we say goodbye?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of information on this and with other, other populations that there are a lot of misconceptions on voting rights. They are all listed on our website, aclu-in.org, including information on important dates regarding the election, and also including information on how someone can volunteer, either whether it's an in-person opportunity or if there are opportunities to volunteer, and from the safety of your own home. We have a hub there of things that our community partners and are doing around the state where you can find out more information.
Okay, it sounds good to me. Well, thank you so much for enlightening us and letting our viewers know more about voting and their rights. And we've been talking to Katie Blair, Director of Advocacy and Public Policy for ACLU here in Indiana. Thanks so much for joining us on Inside Indy.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, Janet. It's nice seeing you again. You look good, girl. Just let me know what I can do to help.
Well, to help me, she'd have to help every day. Every hour, every ouch, every time my wife calls for help. I mean, maybe she could help me make her lunch. But the crust, all the crust has to be cut off the corners. She could help me run to the doctor for the 5th time this week. Help me with the specialist and the second opinions and the painful paperwork about paperwork. Help me deal with how hard it is seeing my wife's name on so much paperwork. But this is on me. I'm the only one who can do this, like this, for her. Besides,
Take care.
we will. Janet doesn't like her cooking anyway.
Find support for your strength. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community.
Hi, Kelly Vaughn here, back on Inside Indy. And let's see, we're in the month of September. We've got October, but the Christmas holiday is fast approaching. In fact, we're going to get a little ahead of it. And what tells us that it's Christmas time is when you go to the store, you go shopping, and you hear those bells ringing, those special bells, and the people outside with the kettles. We're talking about the Salvation Army, and we love them. And joining us to talk about this year's campaign and beyond is Major Marc Johnson. You are the divisional commander for all of Indiana for the Salvation Army here in this great state. Welcome to Inside Indy.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Man, I'm pumped about the holiday season because it's been a rough year. It has been in light of COVID-19 and beyond. But you're going to give us some good news and put that Christmas spirit out there with what's going on with this year's campaign, right?
Absolutely. I think it's never too early for some hope and good news. So we'd love to share with you today. We're looking forward to it.
Okay. So you're getting an early start.
Yeah, this is the first time in our history of over 130 years that we've started this early, but it's also been a very unusual year, as we all know, and you've already alluded to. So because of the pandemic has changed really the way we live and work and move, we done some study and determined that, you know what, this Christmas is going to be different as well. And our giving patterns are different, our movement patterns are different. We needed to get out ahead of this and connect with the people who live here and in all of Indiana. And first of all, let them know the Salvation Army is still here. We've been here. In fact, we've almost been busier during the pandemic than not, with special activities of serving food and meeting needs. But Christmas could look a little different as well, as you've alluded to. And we will have Christmas kettles, but maybe not as many. And we're still working with stores to make sure that it's a safe process for our volunteers and bell ringers, and as well as those who donate.
So what are you doing to ensure the bell ringers' safety for this year? You mentioned fewer of them, but for those who will be out there, and oftentimes they are volunteers, right? I remember volunteering when I worked for the radio station. Everybody on staff had to, had an hour or two that they had to be on that shift, ringing the bell.
We love that, Kelly. That's really a great way to go when an organization or a business says, hey, we're going to take a whole day, sponsor this kettle. And it's kind of fun. Everybody gets their little part. It's not too much work for any one person. We depend heavily on volunteers. We don't depend exclusively on volunteers. There are some who are paid bell ringers. I can tell you from personal experience, it's one of the most difficult jobs you'll ever have. It's also one of the most rewarding as a paid bell ringer. But
especially when it's cold. I can remember being out there.
It is tough, but the rewarding part is you see how generous people are, and they're supporting others. So it does warm your heart. Your hands and feet might get a little cold, but your heart is warm. But yes, we do need volunteers, and this year especially, because we just know some of our volunteers that we've counted on in the past are not going to be able to do it again this year because they have health situations that say it's safer to stay home than to be out. And so there are probably many people out there who said, I've never volunteered before, but I've been thinking about it. Well, this is a great year to put that into action and say, I want to volunteer this year for the Salvation Army.
So I take it then it's just a matter of staying at your kettle when people come by, just practicing social distancing, wearing a mask. Is that the plan in terms of those who are actually doing the bell ringing?
Yes, thank you. I didn't really answer your question, but let me address that. The safety precautions are just that, mask wearing, distancing. They will have some sanitation for their own hands and the kettle as well. So we're trying to be sure that people are as safe as possible. And that's kind of the way I've been living my life in my ministry. I've said I'm going to do the things that I need to do as safe as possible and trust the Lord for the rest. He is watching over us, and so we trust in that.
Amen. Amen to that. So now tell us how people can give in different ways this year, as opposed to coming up to the kettles.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that we've put out there. One of the easiest ones is to go straight to our website, which is salvationarmyindiana.org. All one word, no space, salvationarmyindiana.org. Mm-hmm. And just click on the donation tab. It's right there, kind of towards the top, a little bit picture of dollar bills. And you can click on that. You can give a one-time donation, or you could decide, I'm going to become a sustaining supporter of the Salvation Army all year long and help my community out through the ministries of the Salvation Army all year long by saying, I'll give $25 or $20 every month. And you can set it up to automatically have that charged to your credit card. There's other ways as well. If you are out at a kettle and don't want to take your glove off and get the bills out or whatever to donate because it's too cold, you can take your phone and there's a QR code, or it's called a near field communication system, that tap and pay. Some phones are set up for that. If your phone works with that, you can just go up there, tap and pay. It'll take you to that web page and you can do the donation right there. One other way is, yeah, that really works well. The other thing is that you can text the word Hoosiers to 24365. Now, if you stop and think about how do I remember that number? It's 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, the Salvation Army's there. So text Hoosier without the S, just Hoosier to 24365, and then you can choose the amount that you want to give through your phone.
Nice. Okay. So, and again, we want you to do that giving early we need an early start because, as you mentioned, with the pandemic, you've been hit prematurely, probably with more serving others than you typically would this time of the year.
We have served a lot of people, especially with food. One of the biggest things in the pandemic was people getting food, especially those who were health compromised. And we delivered food boxes, meals to homes, and served in congregate food sites where they didn't come in and eat anymore, but it was kind of a walk up where they could come and get a meal to go. So we were creative in how we served people and did it in a way that was safe for the people in need, as well as for our volunteers and staff who were doing that. So we've been very busy. We anticipate greater need this Christmas. Projections from some of the studies we've done says that our need or demand for help this Christmas could be as high as 155% greater than last year. So,
wow.
Yeah, so more people in need. What's happened, Kelly, sometimes is people who used to be donors to us have gone through significant and serious changes in their lives. They don't have a job anymore. Other things have changed, and they found that instead of being able to give, they need to receive. And we're glad to help everyone who's in need this Christmas time and throughout the entire year.
Okay, so that sounds like to me that if those who normally give have been hit, then those who can give, who have more, probably need to give some more than they normally do. Because if you've been blessed during this ordeal, you are truly, truly blessed.
Yes.
Maybe double or triple giving this year.
My father-in-law was a Salvation Army officer as well, which is an ordained pastor in the Salvation Army for 43 years before he retired. And I remember going to visit him after one Christmas, and even after Christmas, there was food lining the halls, and they had given and given. And he looked at me and he said, "Mark, you just can't outgive the Lord." So I believe that. I live by that personally. I think that if I've been blessed, I want to help others whenever and however I can. So I encourage that.
As far as you mentioned the food and the need, and obviously from the pandemic. So what you're seeing is people who have lost their jobs. And have you talked to any of these individuals and what they're actually going through?
Well, Kelly, we have people on the front lines all throughout the state of Indiana. I would let your viewers know that I just came here July 1st. So I came here to Indiana kind of in the middle of it. But I know that we've been out interacting with people. I spoke with one officer in the northern part of Indiana just today who took a food box to a senior citizen who just was craving that touch, just that human contact, and said, "Can you come in?" He said, "Ma'am, I can't come in, but I'm here with you." And they had a little conversation just kind of on the porch. And she was so thankful to get that food box today. So it's about meeting human need at the point of need. In fact, that's what our mission statement says. In part, it says the Salvation Army's mission is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and to meet human need in his name without discrimination. So we believe that both of those are important. That little word "and" means both, right? So
Right.
preach the gospel and meet human need. Yeah.
Exactly. So, well, anything you want to tell our viewers? You've got the stage now as we close to inspire them to give. We're starting early, and you typically start when?
Well, it varies. Never before, the 7th or 8th of November. Some stores allow us to start a little bit early, but a vast majority of the corporations usually set it up for the day after Thanksgiving until up through Christmas Eve. So it is significantly earlier this year, but it's not so much, well, it is to raise funds. There's no question about that. But it's really to just alert people that, hey, this year could look very different for you and for us. So just to get that idea out there, there's other ways I can connect. Maybe I can volunteer and do something different this year than I've done before. So that's the reason we want to get the word out so that people are aware. We haven't gone away. Just in case for some reason we can't be everywhere that we used to be, we want you to know we are still there. And with the increased need, we're going to need increased support to be able to do everything God wants us to do.
Okay, and the official launch date then again for this year is?
September 14th, Monday. So we're in it.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
We
you know,
will-
it extends the season, and I love a long holiday season. I actually start putting my Christmas tree up in October, 1st of
Awesome.
October. I have to start putting the stuff up because it takes about a month to get it all up. I have like 5 trees, you know.
Wow.
So I'm with you. So
Well,
again, anybody else?
we will still have some traditional launch dates, you know, the Tree of Lights and other things all around the state. Every community has a little different schedule and different traditions that they do, but we will be there doing what we do to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and to meet human need in his name without discrimination.
Okay. Well,
so
I love it.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. And I think as a final word, I'd like to say thank you to your viewers and the good people of Indiana. I've only been here a couple of months myself, but I am feeling very welcomed and a part of this great state. And I know that people have been very generous with their time, with their talent, and with their treasure. So I want to say thank you ahead of time. And if the Salvation Army can help meet your needs, we certainly want to try to do that to the best of our abilities, God willing.
Okay, amen to that. And the information's on the screen. Major Marc Johnson, who is the divisional commander for all of Indiana for the Salvation Army. Thanks so much for joining us here on Inside Indy.
Thank you so much. God bless.
One in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, the boss's boss. If 1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes, that means it could be you, your barber, your barber's barber.
Nice work.
Thanks.
You, your plumber,
Breathe right into your foot.
your plumber's masseuse.
Yes.
You, your dog walker,
On your left.
your cat jogger. Or you, your co-pilot, your co-pilot's co-pilot. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand.